Welcome to this small, intimate round. We have Guillermo Klein on campus, so please give it up for him.
Okay. Thank you.
We've spent some wonderful days with him on campus. He came on Monday, today's Thursday, and we've worked with a big band. You've been to one of my classes. We met some faculty and grad students, and just for a little bit of context, we've prepared his music with the Brown Jazz Band, which is a big band, throughout the entire semester. Hi, come on in, sit down, take a seat. So we've prepared his music, and well, now he came in and he did 2 rehearsals with us, and tonight the concert at 8 p.m. And it's been such a blessing to have him here for all the students, but also for myself. We met in Barcelona in 2007, which is when Guillermo was living there. I did a semester abroad in Barcelona. I was studying in Berlin at the time. And I was a big fan of your music already, and it was great. I didn't know that you were living in Barcelona, actually, and I came and somebody was saying it. And so I took lessons, a couple composition lessons, and then we met in Berlin again, then we kept running into one another. And when I asked you to be the guest for this project, the Milano Memorial Concert, and you asked me, oh, what do you want to play? It was so great for me because I have some of your tunes are very personal to me because I really, for some reason, really connected to it, and they were very formative for my own writing, and I have really great memories, mostly Barcelona and my time in Berlin. And when you came on campus, you said to me, wow, you asked me for compositions that no one really has asked me to play, and then you said some pieces like Volante, Globo, you said that they're also very personal to you, and you said that you use this expression, you kind of have them locked in a box a little bit, and I thought it was so interesting, and I kind of, if you want to share maybe your view on how personal some of your compositions are, maybe some are not as personal, what makes it so personal for you?
That's a good question. Every tune feels personal, no? Every tune, but there are some tunes, especially the ones that have lyrics, that are because the ones that have lyrics, I write lyrics because I need to say something that I cannot say through sound, no? Or I found a way to say through lyrics. I'm not a lyricist, so it takes a lot of work to me to write lyrics. So when I put that feeling and I make it music and the lyrics it's very seldomly that I keep playing those tunes because I kind of, in a way, I feel like I exorcise that feeling or that situation. And furthermore, imagining somebody singing that. But I'm growing to accept that, I have this tune that I wrote in the late 90s, it's called Se Me Va la Voz. And I played it for a few gigs in New York when I was living there. And I never even understood what it means, the lyrics, But it's like a feeling, no? And I got to a point that, okay, I had enough of this feeling. And then 15 years later, a singer that I love from Argentina, Liliana Herrero, is one of my idols. She said, I would love to sing this tune. And I was or that tune. And then we sang that tune together, and the same feeling happened. And when we play these tunes, Volante or Moreira, the feeling comes back. And sometimes it's a feeling that you don't want to feel. But the tunes are, I believe that they're good, or they're complete, or they are a thing in itself, or a little world in itself that I might not want to revisit. But I'm growing to, I was gladly surprised when Lizzie was singing Moreira. You remember I said, you're just putting your heart into this, That's the thing that will be devastating is to hear a very emotional tune that there is no commitment on the other side. That's kind of the fear that you have, It's an interesting topic. So I think that's a clear answer.
It must be, I imagine it must be a challenge to you work with your band Los Guachos, but then you get invited to things like this quite frequently. So to come into a foreign band, how's that? Like, is it the approach to that or the feeling of going into a foreign setting?
Well, I take it as a blessing. It's like a gift from life, because I come and I share with you some experience, some musical experiences, and of course there is many different settings. Sometimes it's in a college, sometimes in a professional kind of how you call the German big bands, or on an orchestra, or bands, small bands. And I always take it as a blessing, and I always take it as a learning experience for me too. How can I emanate the music if I'm not even playing it sometimes? How can I transpire the music? How can I help the music to be realized? And how can we together do something constructive? And when I choose the tunes, I usually write a lot, you know. And like you said, you call for tunes, for example, this tune called Mula. And I was telling you guys in the class, I have PTSD with that tune. Because when I wrote it the first time we were rehearsing it, we took a whole afternoon and it wasn't happening. And we were about to quit. And I don't want to go through that again with anybody, you know. And then I come here and you guys worked it out and you were playing it, and I went right to the piano, like as a kid, you know. Because, oh, this is great, you know, because it takes work. And I know the amount of work that one takes. And it makes you feel, again, as a gift and a blessing. I say, oh, this is great. And I'm glad. What I learned over these years, you know, now I'm 54 years old, but when I was in my 20s, I didn't communicate myself that well. My language skills were very poor. I used to live in New York. I knew like 20 words, and they were all slang words. The words I picked up from my friends, so I'm not going to repeat them. And my writing, so I was thinking that everybody was in my brain. How can you understand this? It's so obvious, you know? And I learned through the years to be able to communicate, not even myself, but the music in a more synthetic and logical, and without losing any of the edges, you know, without losing the rub. So that's a challenge for me. Be able to conceptualize things without losing the most precious thing of it. And every time I'm willing to go there, you know, you were there in the rehearsals, you know, and know how much to push and how to push, you know. So it's also a learning. For me, teaching is learning. Yeah. It's really learning, and learning together, you know, definitely.
We've been talking over the days, and one of the things that really stood out to me that was, it's very interesting, is when you talk about your compositional process, you talk about how you come from the ear. And you transcribed a lot of other people's compositions. And, you know, I feel like this image of a composer, like when this traditional image, you think about like somebody with like crazy hair and looking at scores and maybe, you know, working on notation. And you actually talked about how you were, instead of looking at the score, I think when you talked about a Messiaen piece, you were actually transcribing
Ligeti.
Oh, Ligeti.
Yeah, and Messiaen too.
Yeah. Can you maybe talk about the idea of ear versus notation?
Oh, this is for me crucial. When you learn music through your eyes, the most important sense is not activated. Think about it. You're reading the music. So what is activated first? Your eyes. For me, that's not very positive, especially if you want to write something that has a sort of feeling attached to it, you know, and as a writer, and also as a player. You know, it's so much. I was telling you guys, remember, like, try to look at the music and try to learn it, and the partiture becomes more like a map that you're looking at, not moment by moment. It just becomes like a guideline. and you feel freer, and your ears start listening to what's going on around. And also for me, I will see if I can articulate this properly. When I was in my 20s, mid-20s or something, I felt like I was really stuck. And I feel stuck now. I have a lot of stuck moments, you know, and it's great because that pushes you to formulate new questions more than getting answers, you know. And I remember that I felt that I was keep coming with the same things all the time, and I was tired of those things. And I was like, if I keep doing the same thing, I'm gonna keep writing the same thing. So how can I change? And I remember I read a Wayne Shorter interview that really made an impact in me. Wayne Shorter is a musician that for me is like, it's always close, very, very close. I have a personal relationship with my platonization of Wayne, you know. And I read that he said, well, I was looking inside for a long time, but I felt like if I start looking outside, I might find much more things than if I keep looking inside. Because we have this, like you said, the crazy composer is, well, if you dig inside and you only have a certain amount of water, why don't you just get more water and see how it works later, no? And that's what happened with me with first Wayne, because I was blown away by his music. I tried to get the chords, and then with Messiaen, and then Stravinsky and Debussy, and Steely Dan, you know, I can name Johnny Mitchell, a lot of musicians that by learning the music by ear, you feel that somehow you're writing it too. And you feel like you establish a certain type of communication because, you went there, you know? That chord that I couldn't find. I give you a very simple example. 2 weeks ago, I had to do an arrangement of a Ginga tune. Oh. Ginga is one of amazing composer from Brazil, really incredible composer. And I was listening, and I know there is a partiture of that tune around, but I transcribed it, and I transcribed one version, then I transcribed another complete different version that he plays it really slow. So after I transcribed, I said, okay, I'm ready to have an opinion. Mm-hmm. You know, if I look, C7 going to F major, okay, 5-1, and then this, it's just a complete different trip. So I insist a lot in, when I teach, like, let's listen, and we transcribe music together like we are in a concert. We don't stop. Let's listen to the whole thing. What did you come up with? Let's listen to the whole thing again. Like Charlie Parker used to do. We'd wait at the radio for Honeysuckle Rose every time they played. I said, why don't we do the same? And there is a certain type of connection that is established, you know? And that's what makes me be a musician, you know? And of course I had a hard time reading music. I still do. And I have to work a lot to learn and read, which is bizarre, you know, because my son, who is a great trumpet player, he's 16, and he learned to read when he was 6 or 7, and he reads really well. And I think it has to do with age too. And that makes me think also about the educational system, especially in Argentina, that I would love every school to have music and a band and everybody play together and learn to read and have an instrument. In the States, it's so much more accessible than in Argentina, and that's a thing that I have in my mind as if I could do something about that one day. That would be what a long answer, I'm sorry.
No, this is great, this is great. Also, since you mentioned Müller, that tune, and we're going to play that tonight, by the way, it employs a compositional technique that I think you call filters. How did you come up with that? And maybe you could explain it to folks, what that means?
Well, I can tell you like a very clear story about that, how I came with that technique. I always like to give some kind of funny. I was telling Salivas that I went to India for 3 months, and I had like a gig there. And I remember it was when we arrived in India, we were a band, The line, the migration line, it was maybe 10 blocks long. It was just one line of 10 blocks. So we were like 3 hours dehydrated, waiting to go through the scanning. And I started feeling really weird, like, oh, I want to go back to Buenos Aires. So I started, Argentina, Argentina, and my friends, Argentina. So we were like very slow, the Argentina. So then I went, Argentina, 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 Argentina. So I started playing with the feeling of Argentina with the same pulse. So I had so much time in that line that I started imagining written it down. I said, okay, really, if I keep the beat, I'm slowing the tempo, but the beat stays the same, so it's 2 dimensions at the same time. So that's when I developed that technique that I didn't invent it at all. It's like you can hear that in a lot of drummers when they improvise. And I was like, oh, I would love to capture that and write it, but not for a drummer, for a band. So in this tune, Miula, I employed it, but the thing that Miula has a long clave in it, so if you have tum tum kum kum tum tum kum tum, that's a clave. So if I do tum tum kum kum tum kum tum 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 kum kum tum tum. So what about if I put 10 people, like and you can even see the connection with India. Like Sally was totally nailed it. There is some raga feel to it, and there is some. I remember in the morning, the thing that blew my mind. Everyone in their houses will do like a sort of design with sand and colors in the front of their houses. A beautiful geometric design of colors and sand, and at the end of the day, it would just blow and disappear. And then the next day, another design. And I was, oh man, this is so happening. What a beautiful way to approach life, you know, to wake up and do a design in the sun with colors. So I started doing my designs. So every phrase that you play in that tune is a design that fits with our designs. It's like geometry, visual geometry. If you look at the part, it's like geometric. With a B-flat sus4 sound that makes it sound like Tito Puente or something like that. So, you know, we were talking about the tools we have, right? We use the tools we have. We keep looking out, but then when it comes into our water, you have these tools, and this is what you have. And, you know, that makes me more and more appreciate other people's music, which I wasn't so much open when I was in my teen and 20. Now I hear others worlds like George Lewis, and I was like, oh my God, this is yeah. George Lewis. You know, George Lewis is an American composer. 2 weeks ago, they played one of his pieces, and it just blew my mind. It was like a door open. I was able to tell him that, like, man, thank you so much. You know, you just gave me a lot of answers that I could never find. It was very kind. And so I don't know if I would have, well, I felt it with Wayne too, when I heard him live. Like, he played 1A, and I said, how is it possible? Just one note. You know, Herbie was playing a lot. It was those duo concerts. He was playing a big intro, and then Wayne was like this and played one note, and a tear came down. I said, how is that possible? You know? And I don't know, but it happened, you know.
Since you said working with what you have, one of the things that I found so cool watching you rehearse the band was also the indications you gave about solos. And you kind of gave a lesson where it's like, okay, this is a lesson now.
I said that?
Yeah, well, okay. I think something like along those lines. I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
But you basically said, this is a lesson for jazz players, and it was about chops. Do you know what I'm talking about? Could you repeat that?
Well, there is that. I think if when you say chops, I think I said something along the lines of, we have in our brain engraved the idea, if I play jazz and my solo counts, I have to show how much I can play. And that's kind of a curse, you know. It's for me, it's the opposite. It's your time to sing. It's your time to melt. It's your time to express yourself. So, and I would say, try to play less. Play a melody, play longer notes, wait, and try to play in tune, because so people will listen to you. If you just like kind of practicing a scale, they won't listen to you. They cannot rely on you for anything. So a soloist is kind of a leader of something. So how can you lead, you know? And I'm talking from my very limited technical ability, and I experience it every time I play. You know, how Chris Chick or Miguel Zenon or Ben Monder, they play their solos, and then it's my turn, and I'm like, and I play what I hear. I'm very, you know, very sparse and stuff, and I'm, oof. And then they say, man, that was great, you know. Oh yeah, that was great too, thank you. So it's like there is not, it has to be this way. It has to be. Of course, then I go home and sometimes I practice Bach and I try to play, but that's for practice, you know. When you're performing, practicing it makes you, it just changes the climate of the situation. Even when you're rehearsing, you shouldn't practice. You practice alone. You just express. It's very sacred. Music is when it's music, is one of the most amazing things. Well, I'm a musician, but it's like, why do we make music? You know, what is the point? You cannot eat it, you know. And there it is for us, that maybe helps us being better human beings or inspire other people, and that's one of the reasons why we love being alive, you know, for me at least, you know. So that's all inside the soloing situation, no?
You also called it a gift to the others.
Yeah.
Which I thought was such a nice way to think about it, like to actually stand up even during rehearsal and sharing this gift with others.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And especially in a big band, you are 18 people, and maybe you have one solo in the night, or not even one solo. So if somebody else is playing, just share with your community, you know, what you want to say, what you want to share. You know, yeah, that's one of the most. I think that's why jazz is universal. That's why, you know, I teach jazz in a European college, and I sometimes wonder why everybody's studying jazz and not tango. You know, I don't know. I'm from Argentina, and I love tango so much. And I wish, man, everybody should know and learn tango. But there is not this concept of improvisation, and every time the music could sound completely different. That's what jazz brought to this age. They used to do it in the Renaissance and in the Baroque era. Then the classical period came, and it became very, you know, the composer has so much power, and then the conductor. And I think jazz challenged all that. That is so beautiful, so amazing, you know. And I always pay homage to the blues and the Afro-American tradition of jazz. And if we can grasp a bit of that and respect that by being in the moment and being able to give that gift, that's when we are playing jazz, or we have the jazz spirit, you know. I have the highest respect for that. That's why I live in this country. And that's what I actually said to George Lewis. One of the reasons I live here is because of Wayne's music, you know. And so, yeah.
One of the things that I didn't know about you is that you were kind of a rugby legend at MIT.
Well, legend.
You went to Berkeley and you joined the rugby team at MIT. But the thing that I thought was interesting is that you said, you know, the band is a little bit like a rugby team.
Oh, yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, I used to play rugby at MIT, and that's true. But I used to play rugby in Argentina since I'm a teenager. I love rugby. It's the favorite sport for me to play. And it's a very team-oriented game, you know. I don't know if you know, it's similar to American football, but not. So you have the rack, and they have 8 people against 8 people, and then the ball comes, and they pass the ball, and you have to protect that ball with everything you have, because 8 people really work for you to have the ball, you know? Sometimes I will grab the ball and it will fall, and I will feel, oh my God, and they will look at me destroyed. What did you do? You know? And then when I had to, actually I was playing rugby and I broke this arm, this shoulder. And so I was like a month or something without playing. So that's when I started writing for big band. I'm a lefty, and I remember seeing the band as, okay, the trombones could be the backs, and then the forward, the saxophones, and the trumpets, okay, they attack and they run, and I remember seeing it as a rugby team. That was my way to learn orchestration, actually, as functions, you know? And okay, now everybody together, let's do this. And yeah, it was like I was 21, so I was very playful about it. And that's why maybe when I showed up, one of the tunes we played tonight, the Minotauro, I wrote it at school. And I remember when I brought it to the rehearsal, it really felt different than anything else that they were playing, because I had a complete different approach to a big band. I didn't think of a big band like Count Basie. I thought of it as 18 souls together playing. So, and I think that's why I clicked with it. Somehow I clicked, you know. Sometimes that's the thing I say to my kids and to the students. Just keep going, you know. Just go towards the direction that you feel is right for you. And there will be a moment that is a click. And you never know when that click happened. And I now know that it happened then when I was 21. I had like a click. I didn't even feel that it was a click. It felt right. And I said, what you say? Oh, I put so much energy into rugby, and I was kind of a mediocre player, you know, not fast, not really, you know. At MIT I was better because, you know, in Argentina we play a lot of rugby. So I would do like this and everybody would run, and I would just, but 2 or 3 times, you know. Yeah. So that's my connection with rugby and big band and as an organization, no?
I'm going to ask you one last question, then we can open it up because we have so many people here. And it feeds really into what you're just saying, because I think I'm always interested in where ideas come from and how you come up with something. And this week you've shared quite a few, and I thought it was so interesting. For example, the story about Ibernia. But you don't have to pick that one, you can pick something else, but some, you know, along those lines.
Okay, I can tell you a tune that you don't know.
Okay.
I had a situation, like an experience. It's good that this is recorded too, so I can share it with also my wife. And I had a piece premiere at the Carnegie Hall for an orchestra. And I was, you know, I write tunes, you know, and I was like, I'm not gonna write a tune. I'm gonna write a state of sound. And I'm gonna write something that doesn't have a theme. I'm gonna write something that doesn't have a development or nothing that comes back, something that just goes forward. And they said around 8 minutes. So I'm gonna go 8 minutes of sound that go forward. That was my idea. And I was like, okay, what is the material? You know, very different to the tunes I write. So the process was very, very different and very challenging. So I was reading this book. Meanwhile, I was thinking about this called The Kingdom by Emmanuel Carrère, this French author. And in the book, he talks about the beginnings of Christianity. And he compares how the kingdom of Christianity was built through St. Paul and St. Mark's, and he analyzes the Bible, and then he compares it with his own beliefs, and he questions what is faith, what do we believe on, why do we have the urge of believing in anything? Why do we have that urge? It's a 1,000 pages book. And I was putting that into my piece. okay, I should do something that I believe, but why should I believe? And so I kept working. So I came into an idea of, I'm going to play a chord. It's an A, D, and E. Da, da, di, low. What are the harmonics of this? I play it a lot. So I start here in the octave, then the fifth, then the third, the seventh, the ninth, the sharp 11. Okay, and then I kept di, da, da, di, da, do, da, do, do, di, da, do. The higher I go, the more chromatic it gets. So I wrote a little motif there. And then I started doing like this. So the resonance will get in the middle, the resonance will get in the bottom, and it will sound really dissonant. So I start like going like this and this and this. And I love the concept, so I wrote the whole thing. And it was, and when I received an email from you must hand in the music. And I had like piles of ideas. Oh my God, I was like, you must hand in today. So I said, please give me a few days. Okay. So basically what I did, I put the box of ideas, and okay, you go first, maybe you go here, and then you go here, write a bit. So I wrote something completely different, like a stack of things that piled together. I was like, in this book, this guy has chapters too that have no relationship whatsoever, but it's a common thought that is the faith. And so I put them together, and then when I went to the rehearsals, I was hearing, I couldn't identify myself with the music because it's not a tune, so I was very uncomfortable, you know, it's like, and everybody seemed to like it except me. So I had a very, very unique experience, and I feel like I learned so much from that, and from the concept of doing something else, you know. It's a failure. For me, it was a failure, but a very well needed failure, especially if I'm talking about faith. And at the end of the book, it ends with, I don't know. That's the last 3 words of the book. And I felt like the piece ends, I don't know. The same, totally like that. But the 8 minutes, everybody told me, man, it felt like a minute. 8 minutes, man, it felt like a minute. I got that comment from a lot of friends that went to the gig. So I was, okay, that was achieved, the sense of time. And as you see, I'm talking a lot about time and sound, because in music, time is not time. Time is created by sound. And that's the most awesome thing of the meaning of sound, no? That's a big mystery, the meaning of sound, you know? That's the mystery, and that's why we always try to go. That's why we keep going, you know? And I know I'm gonna still be there until the last day. I might say, I don't know, at the end, but at least I was playing with it for a while, you know?
Awesome. Are there any questions in the audience? Raul, maybe?
Raul.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, and first of all, happy late birthday.
Thank you.
And so there's one chart we're gonna play tonight, which is actually constituted by 2 subject tunes, I think, Complaisir Attento and Fugax. I wonder what motivates you to write these tunes differently and also combine these 2 together to form one single chart?
That's a very good question. I had the fugue first. It's a fugue that is 1.5 minutes long, and it took me like 3 months to write. That was in my late 20s when I needed to, I was telling before I was stuck. That was a way to get forward by studying counterpoint. And it felt too short. And by accident, I played this chord, ta, the very first chord, da da di da 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 di da 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 di da 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 di da da di da da di, really quick, da 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 di da, da da, don king kong 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 ken kong, and that's the clave of the fugue. Da 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 da. So now it's related to the tune that is going to follow. That's why it feels right, because I'm giving you a hint of what's going to happen later. And I remember that moment of playing that. Oh, I went to the fugue. Yeah, of course, I'm in the fugue. Oh, why don't I put them together? That was a moment. They could belong together, even if one is in A flat major and the fugue is in E minor. But it's an E minor moment that is kind of telling you something that is not resolved in the intro. And also, Bach has prelude and fugue, right? That they are the only thing related is the key. They are not playing nothing that is going to happen in the fugue, but somehow it's related. So if he relates his prelude to the fugue in a key, I might relate it through some motivic thing that when it comes to fugue, it's like a consummation feeling. Viste that it feels that way, right? Even if you're not playing, you feel that you're involved in the fugue. And that's what makes me happy. Exactamente. Thanks for the question.
Also, everyone's dancing usually.
Yeah,
while that
yeah,
happens.
that's what. That's very
Everyone
cool.
who's not playing during that time. So.
Very cool. You know this a little. The motive of that fugue was, I was writing fugues and they sounded all Baroque stuff, and I said, I can't put the drums into this, and it sounds like all new. I said, I'm gonna write a fugue with my ears without having to play. Ta tu ru de ru pa, E minor, an arpeggio of E minor. Don ti di di tu du ti di di di. It's a tune that I used to play in a salsa band that I was arranging. It's a Celia Cruz around that time, no? Tu ti di di tu du ta tu du de du ta. It's so funny, you know? It's just like wherever you are, you can learn and use whatever you're experiencing, you know? That's another thing, I'm sorry to divert, but I always say whatever comes your way is, you know, I'm very karmatic about that. Whatever comes my way is my life, you know, and I have to deal with it, and I'm gonna do it the best I can. So maybe if I don't like doing this, I'm gonna do it so good that I don't have to do it again, you know. That was a good example with this salsa situation. I like salsa, no, but I didn't like the situation too much.
Any other questions?
Brown did a piece with respect to your coming to it, and they talked about your going to Berkeley, and when you went to Berkeley, you were really classically oriented, and that the work of Wayne Shorter was integral to your interests at that time, and it formed a bridge into jazz, and so then jazz became that concentration. And I kept thinking about all the beautiful work that Wayne Shorter had done, and I tried to put that in a classical element. I had a little trouble. I can go back to probably Speak No Evil, and there's a Sibelius feel.
Va a ser triste.
And then towards the end of his career, he actually kind of, there's a tip of the hat to Sibelius in his work. But I would be curious to ask, when you speak of it as a bridge, I would wonder if you could go back in your thoughts with regard to that movement, a bridge from classical to jazz, with the Wayne Shorter compositions as your model, so to say. Can you give us any sense of what you thought Wayne Shorter was doing with respect to either classical form or classical composers during that time?
That's a great question. Ti di di da do di da da de da 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 de de di da 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 pe di da 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 pe da. Come on, that's just like, it could be like Mahler, you know. It just, and when I heard that tune, I remember I felt like I was in a place more than in a tune, you know? And I feel the same when I hear folkloric music from Argentina. I forget the form I'm inside an experience. So that was my click with Wayne. And then Dance Cadaverous. Pa do do de ya de de, ta da da de da de, ta da da de, da di da da. And I said, where did that note come from? You know, where did you find that note? If you're if you're not thinking laterally, that note would never happen. That's the feeling I always got from Wayne's music, and he's in a different dimension. And when you say classical or jazz, that's a little bit limiting, I think, for us, because truly we don't, at least me and my friends, the people I hang out with, we really don't think about styles. We really, I think we think that each piece is a style in itself, you know? And I think Wayne, from the very early tunes, I was listening to early Wayne's music recently, and I think he was thinking in concepts too, like science fiction, and he will materialize those concepts with the people he had around. And I always say that, you know, don't try to write a very abstract 12-tone and crazy stuff with people that only play standards, because you're not going to have a good time. So try to choose the people that you resonate with, because we are community people, we are social people. And I think Wayne was working, you know, he started working with Art Blakey, and you know, they needed to write a certain type of tunes in order to work. And he was so talented and so genius to be able to put his ideas into a mainstream band, you know, and I take my hat off, and I always say, don't be afraid of success, you know. It's such a great thing if you're able to do your thing and people sing to it or people dance to it. I think Wayne achieved everything for me, everything in the sense of what a musician could expect spiritually from being a musician. Like, I heard him live many times, and the last band where he would just jump from tune to tune without saying anything, and the whole vibe that he created is like a consummation, and that was very classical to me, you know. And what I didn't like when I went to Berkeley, just to be more specific, I was a very poor reader, almost nothing. I didn't know how to improvise. I did have no idea of jazz music. I knew Bach music because I studied that. I love Stravinsky, Debussy. I would try to transcribe a bit of that. And the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, tango, folklore, that was my thing. I had no idea of jazz. So I go to Berkeley and they put me in a band, in a combo, very beginner combo. Beep, 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 pam, pam, pa, da. I was, oh, this is awful. This is, because that was the first time I heard it. I didn't hear Duke before. So this is jazz. It's real, and it's so square, and it's so, I did have, and thanks to Wayne, I started appreciating jazz, because thanks to, you mentioned Speak No Evil. Thanks to that record, then I went to Coltrane, then I went to Duke Ellington. So he was the bridge to tradition for me too, and to the blues. I knew the blues because rock and roll is blues in a way, but in this tune Lost, for example, that's blues. But you hear all these chords below, and it's a tritonic system that Prokofiev used, for example. That's when you see that marriage, you know? And that marriage without being forced is just a beautiful, you know, two things, boom, land into Wayne, and he puts them out like that. So that's a big inspiration for me, very, very, very huge, you know.
This might be a stupid question. Why did you go to Berkeley if you weren't interested in?
Thank you for asking that. this is gonna be on video. Okay, I'm gonna go for it. I was studying Bach chorales with this really great teacher because I was at the conservatory and I had to leave the conservatory because I couldn't read music and I got blocked. I couldn't read. So I stopped the conservatory. Although I kept at school playing, and I would play in the theater plays, I will write the music for the plays, and the teacher will tell my parents, man, your kid, he's always playing, and now he has a band. I put a band together, and we played, and instead of writing a story, I will write a tune, and the guys in the class will sing with me, so it was very fun, always music. So a teacher said, man, your kid should study. Well, he doesn't want to study and blah, blah, blah. So I started studying classical music with this maestro. It was great. And then my dad invited him to have dinner at my house. And there was a maestro, my parents and me. We were having dinner, and my dad, he says to him, do you think he has any future in this field? And this field of, it's not musical. There is no musicians in my house. You know, do you think he could do anything? And the teacher looks to my house and my dad and me and my family, and he said, he needs to leave the country, he said. And he needs to leave so he could organize himself. I remember that very clearly. I was 18 or something. And then there was like an ad, Berkeley, and a friend of mine went to Berkeley came to Argentina. They shop around countries, and they gave them. And this is a good question because they gave a master class. Gary Burton was the vibraphone playing. The classes were okay. I was that's interesting. That's the first time I saw the chord symbols, like C7 and all that. Like I had no idea. Oh, that's a cool way to synthesize. This is cool. So that kind of got me hooked. And then he started playing, was very cool. And then he said, the highest experience that I had musically in my life was playing with Astor Piazzolla. And my ears were like, you know, that was my hook. And he said, if you want to come to Berkeley to study, you have to submit yourself playing. So everybody had to submit a tape of them they playing, and I submitted a tape of my tunes, the tunes I will record at home, and then he said, we need people like you. And 2 months later, I was at Berkeley. Yeah, and I thought, well, I'm gonna try for a semester. You know, I want to keep playing rugby. You know, just a semester, see how it goes. I stayed 10 years. Yeah, I went to Berkeley, and then I started playing with the big band that I did my master concert with the big band. And we should play gigs. So we started playing gigs, and somebody says, move to New York, and moved to New York, and it just lasted 10 long years. And it was, but the thing is, like, when I went to Berkeley, if something I really appreciate, and I will always be grateful, I met my best friends at Berkeley. And I had Herb Pomeroy as a teacher, who is, like, for me, an amazing guide. Still today, I feel him very around. And I learned from my peers. The guy that, Diego Urcola, who is a very good friend of mine, he gave me Speak No Evil when I told him, I don't like jazz, listen to this. You know what I mean? It's like, and I found by accident, I found the right place for me to be, kind of by accident. So, but I was courageous to leave, you know. I was very tender, and I was a very spoiled kid. And there I was at Berkeley with very little knowledge of the language, of the country. I had no idea. I remember in the classes, they would speak, and my head would hurt because I wouldn't understand anything that they were saying. And then at the end of the class, I would say, you didn't call my name, because he would call names, and I would, here. Oh, you didn't call me. What's your name? Guillermo Klein. And he pointed, oh yeah, here I am, here, me, here, Guillermo Klein. Oh, that's my name, okay, got it. Those type of situations, you know. And then, yeah, also another thing, I love competitivity, not competition, competitivity. So these guys were in a very higher level than I was, really high. So I pushed myself to be able to hang with them, you know. And that made me, in 1 or 2 years, like, phew, kind of what you guys are doing now, you know? It's just like pushing it and you're like, phew. This is the time for that. It's really, it's a very special time in your life because you're getting inspired from, and the cool thing is to be able to, you know, choose where you put your energy because, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that might answer your question.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but this has been great.
Thank you,
It's
Timo.
really, it's wonderful to have you here, Guillermo, and we look forward to the concert tonight. It's at 8 p.m. It's the Milano Memorial Concert, and we're gonna play all of Guillermo's music. So I hope you have tickets because it's sold out. There might be a way. There are always a few rest spots if you're early. So
Yeah, if you are here, it will be great that you're able to
yeah,
experience the music. That will be a continuation of this talk in a way. I won't talk that much, I assure you. But, you know.
all right. Thanks
Cool.
for coming
Thank
out.
you.
Give it up.
Thank you. Thank you.